to Seat Meets Table, the podcast that brings people together. I am your host, Sam O'Hara-Childs, and my guest today is Jon Iles. Hi John, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, Sam. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, it's great to see you.
And you?
I thought first of all we could address, perhaps just in case the camera sees it, is the mark on your face.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, that it's the residual of a very bad black eye, which I got 10 days ago.
In a cage fight, is that right?
I've been telling everyone at the gym that I needed a hobby.
Right.
And that I've taken up cage fighting. And everyone, bar none, has laughed in my face.
Right.
And I said, excuse me, I'm a geezer. Why couldn't I? See, you're doing it. You can't stop. So I could be a cage. Only because I choose not to be a cage fighter. But yes, I tripped up in the hall at home. And I put my hands out to stop myself. I just caught my foot. My balance is not great. And if I trip, I fall.
Right.
There's no medium.
Sure.
It's flat on my face. And I caught my toe on a step. I put my hands out to stop myself, and before my hands reached the floor, my face hit the edge of the door frame.
Nasty.
And so I cut my eye there, and then I got this huge black eye.
Sure.
And it's nearly gone. I mean, it's virtually gone.
Yeah.
So it wasn't painful or anything like that. I looked like a cage fighter. Well, I thought I looked like a cage fighter.
I think you look like
nobody else does. So there you are.
I'm rooting for you from the sidelines of your hypothetical cage match.
Go on, babe.
Get on, John. Yeah. Left hook, right jab. Oh, God. I suppose the best place to start is just to ask you for a summary of your life and career up to this point.
Oh, well,
history.
You want the short version?
Sure.
Went to drama school.
Yep.
Straight from school.
Right. Yeah.
Did a teaching qualification as well to keep my mum and dad happy.
Sure.
Because they said, you can't be an actor, you'll be out of work. I thought, thanks for the confidence vote. But it made them happy that I qualified as an English and drama teacher.
We have to placate them a bit, I suppose.
Well, it's fair. They were putting, in those days, I got a scholarship.
Right, okay, sure.
Most of your audience will probably never have heard of that. But in the old days, if you got certain grades at your exams, the council, the local council, be it here or anywhere else, it was in their gift to give you a scholarship. Yeah. So all my fees were paid. Yeah. Which is like unheard of now.
I suppose it is more of a relic of the past now, even though it's a great idea.
Oh, yeah. It just wouldn't happen. Councils can't afford it.
I suppose. It's a shame. It's a great idea.
But it also meant it's a great leveller.
Sure,
because
exactly.
People from rich or poorer families have the same opportunities.
Yeah, meritocracy.
Absolutely.
Sure.
But anyway, so that kept them happy. I would never teach.
Sure.
Terrified me. Teaching practice terrified me more than being on stage in front of 2,000 people.
It's strange what scares you, isn't it? Some people...
30 kids, I'm bricking it. And I never got over it. I hate it. But yes, then I was 18, like one of the youngest ones at drama college, and I was out when I was 21, 3 years.
Yeah.
Then went into theatre, got my equity card with the Dance Drama Theatre of Great Britain.
Right.
Which was bizarre, but we were doing 4 shows a day in schools. Right. It's a lot for anyone, actually.
Well, travelling around.
And travelling, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that got me my full equity card. You need 40 weeks of professional work.
Right, yeah. Get that quota.
And so I got my card, and then I was off the leash, as it were. So that's it. So then I went on, did theatre tours, lots of very good tours for a company called Triumph Productions, long gone, I think. But they were number 1 tours. You get number 1, number 2, number 3 tours, depending on the venues. Size and reputation, all that. And they were number 1 tours, and that's how I learned my craft as an acting stage manager. Yeah. Well, you have a small acting part, but you also stage manage. You put all the props out.
Player manager for a football team.
Yeah. Yes.
Both.
Yes. Absolutely. And And then started getting TV stuff as well. And I started in comedies, in Dick Emery Show and Never the Twain, Fresh Fields, a Roger Stilgo show, which the name escapes me. But that was really good. They were great. I got odd episodes, but I was in like 3 series of the Dick Emery Show. And I thought that was the direction I was taking. And that's what I wanted to do. But then the bill came along, and it was just a one-off audition. It was a new cop show, and I've got it in my diary as just 2 lines on the day of the audition. Sure. So you got an audition today for a new cop show. That was it.
Yeah.
And then thinking, oh, it'll be a couple of episodes if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
And then got it. And the next 8 years, was the bill.
Crazy.
Best job I've ever had.
Sure.
Everything else. And after that, I don't want to depress your listeners really. It's a sort of slippery downhill slope because nothing matched it.
Sure.
Afterwards, I had an agent who said, when I finished and went into the office and said, ta-da! I spent 8 years in the top-rated cop show on British television and sold to something like 40 countries around the world.
Crazy.
I said, so what now? And he said, well, I suppose it's back to square one. And I just thought, what? Why? For a start, surely the trajectory is up.
Yeah.
Why do I have to go back to square one? But he was that old-fashioned sort of guy that once you finish one, you start again, and I just...
It's back to the grindstone kind of thing.
So he put me up for things where I had like 1-2 lines, and I did a few things like Doctors, and a thing called 3711, which is like primary school, infant school, primary school, secondary school. I did 2 or 3 episodes of that, but it was nothing matched the bill.
Sure.
And so I quietly, I've always said it, acting gave me up rather than me giving up acting. Because I didn't want to give it up.
Sure.
But I wasn't going to drag my ass around the country doing tiny bit parts.
Yeah.
When I'd spent 8 years in a hit show, you just don't. It's not an ego thing. It's like when you see your career going.
Yeah.
I couldn't see the point of going backwards.
Sure.
So I moved into voice work, and that's where I am now.
Yeah.
And have been for like 20 odd years. I can't remember. When did the bill finish about? Well, for me, it finished in 92.
Right.
But the actual show went on until 2000.
2005, 2006 maybe?
It was 21 years.
Yeah.
And I was in it for the first 8. So.
Right, we haven't spent longer than that then, when it finally finished. But obviously also, it tapered off in terms of views itself eventually, as most things do. It's hard to sustain it forever, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
Only so many storylines, only, iterations, moving refreshing with the cast and stuff.
I still like to think that I was in the...
You were the best part.
In the heyday.
Sure,
Then I wouldn't I? Ego the size of Plymouth.
But often the early seasons are the best.
But then they said, well, it had a core direction.
Yeah.
Which was Jeff McQueen, the creator's vision, which was everything had to be seen through the eyes of a policeman.
Sure.
So, no home lives, unless you brought it to work.
Sure.
And so you never saw criminals plotting.
Yeah.
Because there wouldn't be a policeman there.
Yeah.
So everything is through the eyes, through the lens of the police. Sure. So it was a procedural drama which broke new ground. It had never been done. Handheld cameras, never been used before. And for that reason, it had an identity that was unique.
Sure.
And then after I left, not because I left, after I left, I think it's because they missed the character so much, they started changing the narrative, but they subtly, every new producer that came in has to tamper. They have, if it ain't bust, don't fix it. It's the biggest cliche, but it's so true.
Yeah.
They all feel they've got to make their mark.
Yeah.
So that's when people like my character was kicked out. And then they'd make these changes where they'd start going into the home lives of the coppers. Sure. And this got more and more and more until they turned it into a police soap. And that's what killed it. That's what in my opinion.
Sure, yeah. It's a shame, but these things happen.
Exactly. And it didn't matter because from the day I left, I never watched another episode. Why would I?
Sure. It's difficult, obviously, when you had a hard call to make in terms of, pursuing voice work over acting at that point in your life, but also, like you say, it's not necessarily an ego thing, because you've experienced life as a linchpin of a key nationally popular show. And it's hard to... You would naturally expect, as kind of a figurehead character, to go on to something at least similar, or find a similar kind of vehicle, perhaps. I don't know, say with John Nettles, and obviously it didn't happen immediately, but with him going from Bergerac and Midsummer Murders,
absolutely,
it's kind of a similar thing that maybe could have happened with you.
You just hope that trajectory would apply to you as much as it did to other people. There were guys in the bill who've gone on to do great things.
Sure.
And So it was actually quite natural and painless to go into voice work.
Okay, right.
Because I didn't sort of miss the acting because it had gone a bit sour.
Sure.
In the 2 or 3 years after the bill, it wasn't fun. I wasn't enjoying it.
Sure.
So when it was Chris Ellison who played Burnside in the bill, he was with an outfit called Yakety Yak voiceover agency.
Yeah.
Great agency.
Yeah, I recognise that.
And he suggested me to them, and then they got me on board.
Sure.
And I loved it. I love voice work.
You get to have a lot of fun, surely.
It's such fun.
Like a playground almost, or a theme park.
And you don't have to wear makeup, you don't have to dress up, you don't have to wear a collar and tie.
Yeah.
But
and you haven't got to wait around on set, etc.
No, you turn up, you go in the studio, they say go, and you do it, and then you go home.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said for it. And the variety. I've always said, it doesn't matter whether you're doing a character for something. I haven't done a lot of voice acting, which is like on games and things like that. It's quite a difficult market to crack. But I've done enough and odds and sods and things like that. But it doesn't matter to me whether it's a character and a fully blown sort of animation or something like that, or whether it's a documentary or a corporate about asphalt, which I have done. The principle and the method is the same. You're still trying to make it work for an audience that you can't see.
Sure.
So you're trying to invest it with some warmth, some empathy, something. Think of those poor kids who are apprentices stuck in an airless classroom listening to you droning on about asphalt.
Sure.
So you bring to it everything you can to make it engaging.
Sure.
So the process is the same. So I don't care. I'm not proud about what I'm offered. It's the same.
Yeah. Well, like you say, infusing it with personality and things like that. I mean, what are some... You talk about variety, obviously. Can you give us some examples of the kinds of voices you do? If you could put them into broad categories, I suppose.
Voice of God, which is talking to. I used to do some for a very obscure religious. I hesitate to call it a cult, a sect. I'm not going to name it.
Sure. Sect is a good neutral word.
But it was. I was doing announcements for the services.
Right.
And it was the full voice of God. Welcome to the church. The sermon today will be delivered by Zephaniah Jacobs, and the thrust of this sermon will be: should we be kind to one another, or should we beat down those that we look down upon?
Wow.
Yeah, lots of that.
That's very cool.
But it's just you put that on your CV as VOG.
We've all done it, VOG. Back again.
And Ian McKellen, that leads on to Ian McKellen and things like that.
Sure.
Which is that sort of Gandalf thing.
Yeah.
Thou shall not pass.
Centaurian, commanding, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to me because your voice is so deep. I'm curious, like as a child or a teenager, younger man, was your voice that naturally deep?
Nope.
So is it through...
It's when I started doing voice work.
Right.
And I think as I got older...
Right.
It just... And I just found...
Another deeper range.
A deeper range.
Right.
And so I could sort of explore that more. But I'd never needed it.
Okay, I suppose.
When I was in the bill or in comedies and things like that, I just had to talk in my ordinary voice. It wasn't...
There must have been hints of it, perhaps in the bill, where you had to be more commanding or you're admonishing someone.
In the theatre, there was.
You have to project that.
I've got a good voice for
projection.
I thought nobody ever said to me, "Can't hear you at the back, John." But I've always been a bit of a gobby, geezer.
So as an adolescent, did you have naturally good projection? Like a carrying voice, I suppose.
I did stage school plays all the time, and again, it came very naturally to me.
Sure.
That I knew I had to hit the back of the hall, and I wasn't taught that.
Sure, it's just quite an unnatural gift because not everyone has that built in. Like, I don't know, the shape of the throat, vocal cords, whatever it might be. I don't know what the science of it is, but it's fascinating that you can just do it naturally.
But then also when I ended the bill, the one thing I did do, which was really enjoyable, which I forgot to say, is playing villains in panto.
Sure.
And I did most of them. I still had a few. I can't even think of the ones I haven't played, but Captain Hook was my favourite. Abanazar is one. The Giant's Henchman in Jack and the Beanstalk.
Right.
I never realised that the Giant's Henchman is the villain.
He's the mastermind all along.
The Giant's the villain, but of course it's a bit difficult because that's usually just a pair of 12-foot boots. He doesn't do a lot of talking.
Yeah,
but the henchman does the talking for you.
Sure.
But that's where I discovered the really big VOG, the voice of God.
Right.
Because the villain had to come on and pound it. And
sure.
I loved that.
Yeah.
I always felt if I didn't see the doors at the back of the auditorium swinging and the light coming in, meaning that kids were leaving in tears.
I thought you meant with the power of your voice, but
no. It meant that kids were
fleeing the scene because
it's terrifying. About half a dozen, I didn't really feel I earned my money.
No champagne tonight.
No,
only 5 children left.
5 of them left in tears.
Poor show. I must be losing it.
Bad show. I'm going to donate half my. Because I just haven't done it.
Yeah.
But that was where I could give full rein to it.
Sure.
And it worked and it fitted. I was required to do that.
Yeah. I mean, what are some of the other voices you say you do or have done in your repertoire? Do you play a Cockney or a cheeky scamp? What is the educational voice like?
I did one.
Educational voice.
Sorry. There's also there's not that because I say I've not been voice acting, but I love doing anything for poetry. I mean, there you can just use the lower register and you sort of. I did a fabulous thing for Brixham Fish Market. Strangely, it was shot like a movie. It's the most beautiful film of the trawlers going out to sea, and it was this poem about them, and I was overacting, and it kept going back to the client.
Sure.
I mean the producers who just said no, less, and it wasn't until they sent me the film that it clicked, and I went no, there's no need for me to act.
Yeah.
Then it's all there in the film.
Right.
I just have to do I just have to do the script, so you bring it right down.
Sure. So the beauty is in the visuals.
And that absolutely, and it worked beautifully.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I'm trying to think.
When you're not going deep, for example, where else do you go? Like, say with educational films, is there a tone you have to strike there that's more distinct? Like, say with the Asphalt video or something like that, where it's more instructional.
That's more of a neutral voice.
Neutral tone.
And it doesn't really require that sort of depth because it can detract. So you just do it. Do a middle course. I was trying to think of a voice I did. I can't remember. It'll come back to me.
So kind of like your normal voice, more or less, with the instructional stuff.
With the corporate stuff, any corporate stuff and e-learning scripts,
sure.
Which are huge now.
Right.
You do them, you lift it all a bit.
More upbeat, so people are engaged more?
Yeah.
Sure.
And also so that they're not listening to your voice, they're listening to the information.
So you have to sand away any personality.
You often get, on TV documentaries, you get the famous voices.
Sure.
Which I won't name, obviously.
But you know them when you hear them.
Hear them. And the thing is, because they don't do voiceovers that often, they just get offered a shed load of money to do this particular documentary.
We want you to be you, his cash. Yeah.
And then they do it, they overact it and everything.
Sure.
And if you watch the documentary, you find yourself listening to the voice, not what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And you think, that's because you don't do it for a living.
Sure. And it is a skill, it's an art form.
I believe it is.
No, I can see how it is.
And you learn it along the way.
Yeah, well, like I was about to ask as well, like you over time become more tutored in the mechanics of how to do it correctly.
Yes.
Over time, so that was a mistake. Next time, do it this way because that way was too much for me.
Absolutely.
Over-egging the pudding or whatever.
Tiny things about.
Sure. Intonations and stuff.
Intonation.
But that's fascinating because that's quite scientific. And it's intuitive, but
it is intuitive as well.
Sure.
Which is something I've never had to think about it. I just feel what I need to do.
Sure.
And also, like doing radio commercials.
Yeah.
I love doing radio commercials. The producer of that will often say, "Can you shave half a second off that?"
Wow,
because they're very specific. A commercial could be 20 seconds.
It really comes
down. It could be 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It could be 40 seconds.
That's like forensic pronunciation.
Absolutely. But they'll say, "You'd really help us if you could lose half a second." Well, you don't think about it. You just redo the advert, and they'll say, "Fabulous."
That's like shaving down syllables with a cheese grater.
And I don't know how to do that, but I do it.
That is fascinating.
And it's you've got a clock.
Yeah.
And it's not a clock you think about.
It's wired to the
it's how you're wired.
This will work, and then
and yet there's just part of you knows to just speed up
muscle memory, surely.
That
you know the speed
and rates.
To do it. Sure. Because you're almost, in a way, you're kind of like a singer. In terms of your voice is an instrument.
Yeah.
Like it's really important.
And pitch and flow.
Yeah, exactly.
And tempo and
all of that stuff.
Being aware, without thinking about it, that you need to pick this up a bit.
Sure.
This is quite a boring passage. Sure. So get a move on.
Yeah.
And you're not doing it consciously. It's just your muscle memory is going like we do this, and this. I did, thinking about voices. I've just remembered something I did only about 6 months ago, and it was for a gym in London, and they wanted it in like a Cockney geezer.
Right.
So that's one I've done that for a lot of friends actually on their answer phones.
But you also get those requests. They know you're that guy, so
it's like hello, this is Martin's phone. He's not available, so leave a message. Or not, he didn't care. And the gym was the same thing. Welcome to the box. Leave a message if you want to, if not, don't bother. These are your call is not really that important to us. And it's every message was, I had to do like 30 messages, and it was all this. If you can be bothered, then leave a message. If you can't, well, we don't care. But it's the box. It's the only gym in London that's worth going to. I love that.
What's interesting as well is I can see your body language changing with each voice. And again, I guess a lot of that's got to be intuitive and natural as well. Instinctive.
But I do that in my studio. I always sit down.
A fly on the wall camera would be fascinating to see how your body does change.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
And it is that. It's simply that.
Sure.
You sort of take on the. Well, it's because it's acting, really.
Exactly, yeah. But that's, I guess, partly what's fascinating is and the thing about acting as well is, even if it's just a voice and the end product, people only hear the voice, you're acting for yourself in the booth. You have to create the world.
Yep.
Like being a child again, almost, or acting up back, against green screen, just very imaginary. Are you just projecting to the wall in front of you? Are you imagining someone's there listening to you?
Oh, I try and imagine someone's there.
Right, sure. So it's like kind of like a dialogue.
And like I was saying, you do think about your audience.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
A lot.
Yeah. I mean, do you have any preparation techniques or warm-up exercises that you do?
I do. I have, just to get the tongue and lips working. There's all sorts of things. When you go through the vowels, and it's going from the front of the mouth to the back of the mouth with the sounds. So it's hooped, hoped, hawked, harped, haped, heaped. Can you see the way my lips are going back? So it's oo, o, or, r, a, e. But you go doop, dope, dorp, darp, dape, deep, hoosked, hosked, horsked, hasked, hasked, heasked. So you're trying to get the tongue going. Hooped, hoped, hawked, harped, haped, heaped, hooed, hoed, hawed, hard, hayed, heed. That's a little more, just to get the lips and the tongue working.
Sure.
The manalavaza, menilevezi, minilivivizi, monolodavozo, manalavaza. It's another one. Vowel sounds.
Sure.
And pitch. So I do that.
Sure.
That's about it. A couple of stiff brandies.
Job's a good one.
Just as a livener,
Sure.
8 o'clock in the morning, I'm not really awake. I jest.
One thing I was interested in to get your opinion on is, what do you think makes a great actor?
I don't know. I think there's a natural delivery, and there's the clue in the title of being an actor or an actress. I know actresses often like to be referred to as actors, but nowadays, and you can be too naturalistic. There's a tendency these days to think that the more natural you are, the better actor you are. And a lot of people think that. And there's some very famous actors who that's how they present.
Naturalistic style.
Absolutely naturalistic style. But I always think the clue's in the name, acting. And it's different to real life. It might need to look like a slice of real life.
Sure.
But it's unnatural the way it's happening. It's not you and me talking. You're actually projecting, whether through that or in a theatre, to X number of people.
Yeah.
So it requires a different technique.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean being big and over the top.
No, not necessarily.
But I just believe there's a medium between ultra natural and over the top.
Sure.
That is the right course. And to me, those are the actors I really enjoy watching.
It's quite elusive, surely. That middle point is quite elusive.
Oh God! And I'm not sure I ever achieved it either. It's elusive, and it makes for unique performers.
Yeah,
as well. The actors who you can close your eyes, and as soon as you hear them, you go, I know who that is. That's quite rare, but they're the ones who have a unique style.
Yeah.
And a unique delivery and take on things.
Sure.
That I'm always envious. I was always envious of.
It's almost like natural charisma as well, isn't it? Part of it almost baked into, because part of it is skill. You have to be able to act well. Some of that can be natural, some of that can be taught, but some of it also seems to be like an extension of someone's, almost like pheromones. Like they just have a natural charisma that emits from them that can hook you in.
It's things you can't teach.
Sure.
It's in delivery and things like that. And it's, you sort of go, you have either got it or you haven't. You can teach technique,
sure,
but you can't teach that screen presence like you're talking about, the charisma. And you can't teach that. You've either got it or you haven't.
I think that's part of what you have. Certainly, because I've known you a lot for your voice work, with your voice. And again, I think as I was, discussing earlier with you as a child and having an actual gift, I think that's a gift. And even though you may have discovered the depth of range in later life, it must have always been there.
Well, the voice work, I'm happy to say that my voice work gives me far more fulfillment than the acting ever did. Much as I enjoyed acting, I felt a bit of an imposter sometimes.
Okay. Sure.
I just didn't think I was that good. And so I know I am good at voice work.
Yeah.
And the reviews back it up,
sure,
which my ego loves. But I've got better reviews because people review you on the directories that you're part of.
Sure, sure.
And they're the best reviews of my life. I never got acting reviews like that. I've got more satisfaction from voice work than from the acting.
With voice too, you're singled out entirely for your voice.
Yes.
We like that guy. Who's that guy? It's this guy. He's great. Rather than being part of an ensemble.
And it's also it was a natural transition anyway, because since I started having balance issues, with a tiny bit of brain damage, which never discovered what.
Sure.
But what it's affected, the only thing it's affected, I hope, is my balance. Now, that's almost like that's a way of saying you won't go on stage again, because most theatre stages are raked, which people will know means they slope slightly, so that the stage does that for the people up in the gods and up in the circle. So they get that, instead of having that view, they've got that view, which is far more satisfying.
Sure.
Well, for someone with balance issues, I'd be fine when I'm on stage, but then when they have a blackout at the end of the scene and I have to get off stage, I'm going to be in trouble.
Sure.
Real trouble, because without light to show me, if I even go out in the evenings, I look wobbly.
Sure.
So it was almost dictated that I couldn't do theatre anymore. So I had to make a transition.
Sure, and obviously, you'd like to believe that often things turn out as you're supposed to, or things may happen for a reason, or just go in a direction that.
Oh well, whatever. I was lucky to be able to move into that area.
Yeah,
because it's still performing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, definitely.
There's loads of acting required.
Sure.
Only I don't have to run around the stage.
Sure. So what would you say are some of your hobbies and interests, John?
I don't have many.
Right. Apart from cage fighting.
Being honest, apart from the cage fighting, I think I'm going to give that up.
I have advised you.
I think, I'm going to take that advice. My main hobby now, for 45 years I've gone to the gym. 45 years ago, my best friend at the time, Mac, who I was at drama school with, I hadn't seen him for about 6 months. I'd been on tour with Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Sure.
And we met up. And from being a slight build, in 6 months, he was built like the proverbial brick
place
outhouse.
Sure.
And I was like, what? And he said, because in those days, you've got to remember, gyms were like grunt and fart places.
Sure.
It was the smell of rusty iron and blokes who blocked out the sun.
Sure.
It wasn't the place for, middle class actors.
Sure.
For want of a better.
Sure.
People, the general public didn't go to gyms.
Yeah.
It was meatheads went to gyms.
Sure.
And he said, I've started going to the gym. I said, oh, that's what caused that.
Sure.
And he said, and he just explained it and said how much fun it was and how enjoyable it was and all this. And I thought, I want, because I was telling you earlier, I used to be 6'2".
Yeah.
Now I'm 5'11". But we won't go into that. It's what happens when you get older.
Someone put a curse on you.
Yeah, I think I got.
You got cursed in the cage.
Cursed. That's it. I was doing too well.
Yeah, fought a wizard.
You're going to lose an inch a year. I say this.
We'll fight again in 3 years.
Tell you this way, 4'2". So he explained all that and said it's great fun and they're becoming more accessible and all this. And the point was, I was 6'2" and lanky. I was always into sport.
Sure.
But I was but not thin.
Willowy?
But willowy, yes.
Sure.
Yeah. And I thought, I want some of that. So the next time we were in Southend, I don't know why I remember this, but we were in Southend-on-Sea with Joseph, and I went and hunted out, because in the daytime you had to yourself.
Sure.
You did an evening show, except on Wednesdays and Saturdays when you did a matinee. And so I went in search of a gym, and I found one. And it was above a shop. It was this sort of damp sort of attic space with no pot plants. And all the equipment, I don't know why all the equipment is rusty. I think it's because people sweated on it. And if you didn't wipe it off, you left it.
Yeah, that was new last week. Now it's...
You know it's rusty. And they couldn't have been nicer. And there were enormous guys there. And the owner the owner, was so nice. And I think he was delighted that he got someone who'd never been to a gym before.
Sure, yeah, branching out.
So he could impart. I said, I'm here for a week.
Sure.
Can you give me a routine and basically, show me the ropes?
Sure.
And he did, and others did as well. They all wanted to chip in, and I got a wonderful routine put together. And they took me through the exercises all the way around the gym. They couldn't have been nicer. And I really enjoyed it. And I now go to the gym 5 times a week at least.
Wow. Right.
It's my happy place. Not only, I treat it as a club.
Sure.
I have a good hour after my workout, which is like an hour and a quarter to an hour and a half. And I then spend an hour chatting to people in the cafe.
Sure. It's nice that social aspect to it as well.
It's a club. But other interests, I love art.
Sure.
I love interior design. I've always, I've never trained or anything like that, and I certainly wouldn't go on Alan Carr's Design Masters or whatever, because I'm no good with a staple gun and reupholstering tired chairs. It doesn't really.
But your flat is incredible. I've been there. It's incredibly distinctive, it's Baroque almost, dramatic.
It's very theatrical.
I'm going to put some pictures up on the video version of this so people can see. It really is theatrical as fuck.
It's what I've always wanted to do.
Sure.
In the past I've had partners and I've had to water down what I would do.
To temper your perhaps more grandiose aspirations.
Yes. When, ringing in my ears, you want to do what?
Yeah, you want to put a lion's head on the wall above the toilet or something like that?
What colour? You want to paint the hall black. And you're going, that's not going to happen. Well, sure. Now it has happened.
It's one of the pleasures of living alone, I suppose. You can just go
absolutely.
And do that. Sure.
But things like the hallway, which is, there's an irony there as well, because having done it, I wanted it to look like the corridor in a theatre.
Sure.
And the ceiling is very high. So the whole hallway is painted in the deepest blue-green. It's like the depths of the ocean.
Sure.
It's really dark. And it goes all the way up the ceiling as well. And all the paintwork, the skirting boards and everything are this deep blue. The only thing is the dado rail going round the hall is copper. And the cupboards on that side are copper.
Sure.
And the door frames are copper. Metallic copper. And what it does is you can't see the ceiling. It disappears.
Sure.
And it feels, and the studio is draped with a huge, very thick brocade red velvet. So it looks like the sort of velvet curtain you've got to go into the auditorium.
Yeah.
And then, but the irony is that you have a pitch black hallway with only picture lights, two small picture lights in it, but you only walk through it, so it's not a room you sit in, but in my case, you walk through it and then fall over and smash your face. And the last time I tripped over, which was about 3 years ago, I broke my nose.
Oh, God.
I missed the door.
Suffering for your art
and
there, very literally.
I hit the ground. And friends have since said, after this latest one, said, I think it's time to talk to me like I'm really, really old. I think it's time, John, that you've got a grab handle.
Yeah.
You know, no.
I'll keep
I
falling
spent
over.
a lot of money on that hall, and if you think I'm
Is my flat or fall over if I want to?
Well, I said, I will suffer.
Sure.
For the theatricality of my hallway.
Sure.
If that means the occasional broken nose.
It's only twice.
And smashed eye socket. It's only twice in 20 years. I mean, come on. It's very dramatic. And then gold sofa and all that. I mean, it's camp with a big C, actually. With a big C. I was going to say
impossible to
small
deny.
C. No, I can't deny it. It's a huge C.
In fact, you're not denying, you're declaring.
With a very glittery C.
Yeah, that's the declaration.
And talking of glitter, the ceiling is also green, and it's the architrave. It's above the picture rail is white, so it's not a green cave. It's got white around it, which separates it.
Sure.
But the ceiling is green, and in that I mixed 2 bags of gold dust.
Nice.
So
like a disco, almost.
It glitters.
Sure.
It glitters at night.
Sure. That's nice. That's nice.
But yeah. I like old paintings.
That's the question as well, is where do you get inspiration from? Are there any particular people who inspire you, or is it just like you said, looking at artworks?
Victorian Gentlemen's Club is very much what I've gone for.
Nice, I see.
Right. Well, I live most of my life in the past now.
Sure.
So I thought I might as well embrace that. So it has that feel.
Turn it into a one-man exclusive, very exclusive gentleman's club.
Very exclusive, one member.
Only I'm allowed.
Just the one member then.
You pretend to be your own butler as well.
Yeah.
A glass of brandy there, Charles. Thank you very much.
The games I play, Sam, it's just endless fun.
That's part of the because I'm quite a theatrical person as well. So if I had a theatrical place, I would, and I do act a lot anyway by myself.
Yes. Same here.
I would act even more. I mean, do you find yourself, do you ever catch yourself,
I
don't know, standing up and making declarations or doing Shakespearean speeches or anything?
No.
Or just putting on voices and kind of...
I watch a lot of television.
Yeah, that's
I don't apologise for that at all.
Dialogue with the TV.
And I have a ongoing dialogue with the TV. But if I see someone doing something...
Sure.
Acting, and I think it could be done better, I will then... Get up and start doing it.
Nice.
I will do it. And then I'll sit there. Then I will sit down and say, that's how you do that scene. My inspiration, a lot of it, comes from old masters.
Sure.
And that then influences your taste in all sorts of things.
Of course, and I'm curious.
Just because of
and
costume and
the theatre and all that stuff.
And the theatricality of the old masters. They're all incredibly theatrical.
Well,
the posing.
Definitely.
And I love all that.
And the light and shades and melodrama, and it's all very dramatic.
Yeah.
Well, I was curious, do you ever think, or do you subscribe to the idea that you can perhaps be born out of your time?
Yes.
That maybe you were?
Oh, God, yes.
In terms of your home and in terms of the art that you're kind of into and things like that,
I always think I should have been born in the Regency period.
I can see you there.
Always.
I can see you nailing it in that period.
I just love it. I love it. There's a lack of hygiene in the Regency period,
that's
I think.
definitely a drawback.
I'm looking at it through really rose-tinted glasses.
Of course.
But which is the outfits,
It seems like they were having fun. The crazy outfits, a lot of sex and scandal and drugs.
Incredible amount of sex and scandal.
Just bonkers.
And fantastic outfits. And
so over the top.
I'm sort of ignoring the poorer sectors of the community who are slaving away till their hands bleed.
Well, it's not very glamorous.
That's not glamorous. I just forget that. So
you're not going to be one of those guys. You're going to be the guy
All I'm thinking about is the Crescent at Bath, in Bath. Pretty well nowhere else.
Just endless
to be honest.
cocaine parties.
Endless cocaine. Dropping the tablet du jour.
Sure.
I don't know. Just having tea party because nobody worked.
Yeah. Just lounge about.
Lounging about on a chaise longue.
Making witty
Chatting,
decisions.
making, and being incredibly witty.
Yeah.
And just making everyone in the room
Unbelievable.
laugh.
Yeah, sure.
Powdered wigs.
Yeah. Eating odd, like, peacock's noses or whatever the hell.
Yes.
Strange.
Swans stuffed into ostriches, stuffed up an elephant's arse, I don't know, and that's just
Then
lunch.
extracted, then restuffed.
Yes, and then restuffed. What? Who cares? Just fabulous.
I can see you working there. That'd
That
be
would
your
work.
milieu.
And then I leave the ladies in hysterics,
Sure.
as much as they can be hysterical,
Yeah.
which is probably...
Yeah.
I leave, I get into a hansom cab, and then I go to my club.
Nice. And that's every day, is that more or less?
It's every day.
Yeah.
I have dinner
Sure.
with my chums.
Yeah.
We then
A bunch
gamble
of
the night
roisterers.
away. We roistering and ludicrous games.
Yeah.
And then drink
Sure.
virtually until the small wee hours.
Yeah, at least 4 a.m. perhaps.
Having got rid of the larger part of your inheritance and a game of canasta, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Do they play poker then?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Scotch the Donkey, some obscure
You-
convoluted game that no one
yeah.
knows the rules of.
Absolutely. And then yes, and then you do it all again the next day.
Sure.
I resonate with the Roman period, the Roman Empire.
Mm.
I love that.
I can see you as a Roman senator.
I've read a lot of that.
Also very debauched time.
There's a theme, isn't there here? Yeah. Do you know I hadn't thought of that?
John wants to go back to the time where there were orgies all the
Where
time.
they do it literally is just having sex all the time. I hadn't thought of that.
That's the defining.
But it's true.
true.
Yeah. But I love the architecture. I love architecture anyway, but I love the whole Roman Empire architecture. Again, completely missing out how they enslaved billions of people really across
And lots
the
of
globe.
war.
And just constant war
Pretty much,
as they expanded.
Yeah.
But you forget that.
We have the good stuff.
Just the good stuff.
One very last thing, if I can.
Yeah, go on.
How would you describe yourself? Can you, in 3 words?
I would like to think loyal, funny, tiresome. Yeah, that'll do.
All right, great. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe, rate, slate, comment, cavil, share, suppress, whatever you like. And stay tuned for more fantastic interviews with brilliant guests. Hasta luego.